The annual meeting of the World Economic Forum began at Davos in Switzerland this week. Just a group of philanthropists who want the best for us.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The media was eager to cover the major event, and the leaders were anxious to share their plans. Oh, but not with independent media.
Which media are you with?
I am an independent journalist from Japan.
No, thank you very much.
Yes.
I have to ask. Thank you.
Thanks.
And attendees like Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla couldn't be bothered either.
I mean, we now know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission, but why did you keep it secret? You said it was 100% effective, then 90%, then 80%, then 70%. But we now know that the vaccines do not stop transmission. Why did you keep that secret?
Have a nice day.
I won't have a nice day until I know the answer. Why did you keep it a secret that your vaccine did not stop transmission?
Is it time to apologise to the world, sir? To give refunds back to the countries that poured all their money into your vaccine that doesn't work, your ineffective vaccine?
It's only natural they would want pre-screened questions by paid-off corporate media puppets. Speaking of propagandists, CBS covered the event. Just kidding, they covered those of us exposing the forum for what it is. As elites gather in Davos, conspiracy theories gain traction online. Yeah, all these people are saying these billionaires are like power hungry and want to use like the pandemic and stuff to consolidate power and take our rights away or some junk. The Great Reset, what a bunch of loonies. But the theme of last year's gathering was actually called the Great Reset. That's misinformation. Klaus Schwab wrote a book called The Great Reset. Misinfo. That's dangerous to our democracy, you know.
Building this new world order. Building this new world order. Or new rules-based order. The voice of the global south and the developing world is included.
Elon Musk tweets, WEF is increasingly becoming an unelected world government that the people never asked for and don't want. MSNBC takes a dig at Musk, implying he's firing up conspiracy theorists who think the WEF billionaires want to make us eat bugs. Oh, but WEF actually does push that.
Insects are becoming a trend. The Western diet has to kind of shift and change. And most importantly, it's natural, it's normal, and it's the way that we have to feed the future.
Then it was the WEF that promoted Sam Bankman-Fried's historic Ponzi, the biggest financial fraud in history. Apparently the savants at the World Economic Forum just couldn't tell that this twitchy, pill-popping kid in cargo shorts, who literally played video games during interviews, was an utterly transparent scammer. They had no idea.
And just when I thought Brian Stelter was done making cameos on Media Malfeasance, he shows up in Davos talking about journalistic integrity after being fired by CNN.
The clear and present danger of disinformation is our conversation here this afternoon. It follows a session just now about disrupting distrust. And of course, those are connected.
Yep, this is the same guy who refused to call out WAPO for its disinformation about the Steele dossier behind the Russia collusion hoax. The same guy who was mum about his buddy, Don Lemon, tipping off hoaxer Jussie Smollett that law enforcement wasn't buying his tall tale. The same guy who lied about Joe Rogan saying he took horse dewormer to recover from COVID rather than a human prescription written by his doctor.
It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a lie that they're conscious of. This is not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
And BS wants to preach to you about journalistic integrity. Disgraced FBI Director Chris Wray also gets cozy at the World Economic Forum and corroborates all the Twitter files showing the collusion between the federal agency and big tech to censor and target everyday Americans.
And particularly important, the level of collaboration between the private sector and the government, especially the FBI, has, I think, made significant strides.
Speaking of federal intel, a confession this week. Daily Wire, one of the 51 intelligence veterans who signed a letter suggesting the Hunter Biden laptop story could be part of a Russian disinformation operation, said they knew the contents of the device were genuine at the time. Washington Post didn't admit the authenticity of the laptop until March of 2022, and CBS waited 8 more months after another election, the midterms, to make the admission. They all lied to you to interfere in an election, and this is becoming common practice now. We now know the discovery of classified documents in Biden's possession occurred before the midterms. Was the story held until after the election? Fox and Friends hosts are curious.
Paul Rove told me on Saturday that CBS had the story in the fall. They had it in November, and they held it. Why did they hold it? Who convinced them to hold it? Since when do you hold a story like this until January? And then NBC finds out about the next tranche that was found.
Right.
So these are two outlets pursuing a story, and they seem pretty exercised in the press room too.
If that is true, then NBC and CBS, if they knew before the election, they both helped the Democrats. And that needs to be an investigation.
This whole debacle is built on a mountain of lies. Here's the White House press secretary assuring us the search was complete.
They completed the search. The search is complete. He is confident in this process. You should assume that it's been completed, yes. After the search concluded last night.
And then what do you know? Even more documents were found. So CBS suddenly decides to act interested in the story again.
Friday, did you or did you not know about the additional 5 pages?
I literally just answered that question.
But I missed it, so is it yes or no?
Well, I mean, you're not too far sitting next to her, so I was very clear. I provided the information.
Even CNN hack Oliver Darcy is now catching up with the rest of us, finally admitting KJP is just the worst. In his Reliable Sources newsletter, he says White House reporters are exasperated with Jean-Pierre and do not believe she is well equipped to handle their inquiries. CBS has desperately tried to minimize the Biden classified documents. American Greatness points out the network had former federal prosecutor Scott Frederickson working as a commentator on the first Biden classified document revelation, arguing there is a difference in intent between this case and the Mar-a-Lago saga. I guess just never mind Frederickson was a regular donor to both the Biden 2020 campaign committee and the Biden Victory Fund. No bias there. After now multiple Biden blunders, supposedly accidentally leaving top secret docs in multiple locations, you suddenly don't hear national security concerns from the media. And there's nothing fishy about Biden's lawyers taking the lead on this, leaving the DOJ out. CNN breaks news the Federalist reported on years ago concerning the president's brother James. It finally covers how the Biden family, the brothers and his son, all used the name for shady or even criminal business deals. A famous last name, business deals in a looming probe. Republicans ramp up investigation of Biden family, reads the CNN headline. Notice how they always do this? They turn the attention to the investigation of the scandal rather than the bad news for Biden, using phrases like Republicans pounce, attack, or Republicans seize. The discovery of classified documents in Biden's possession, a new line of attack, falling squarely into Republicans' laps. So now we're really going to focus on the response rather than the bigger story? Other deflecting distractions are the flippy-do to somehow make this story more about President Trump, or sympathy for the poor, drug-addicted Hunter Biden. Here's the peacock coming to his defense.
Targeting Hunter Biden multiple times on this show, Senator. You're targeting an individual.
Chuck, Chuck, part of the problem, and this is pretty obvious to anybody watching this, is you don't invite me on to interview me. You invite me on to argue with me. I'm just trying to lay out the facts that certainly Senator Grassley and I uncovered. They were suppressed. They were censored. They interfered in the 2020 election. Conservatives understand that. Unfortunately, liberals in the media don't. And that's part of the things that, part of the reasons our politics are inflamed is we do not have an unbiased media. We don't.
Meanwhile, other stories are memory hold. After NBC News ran a story about the Paul Pelosi attack, contrary to preliminary narratives, the network inexplicably took the entire story down and suspended the reporter. Red State reports some news outlets are now suing for more information on the Paul Pelosi story. After a hearing last month, evidence was brought forward, including police body cam footage, tapes of the 911 call, interview details taken from the scene that night, and video from the security system monitored by the Capitol Police in D.C. If the story truly is about a crazy right-winger suddenly showing up and slipping by all that security to attack Mr. Pelosi, Why not release the evidence? A coalition of news organizations, including the Associated Press, has now filed a court motion in San Francisco seeking access. The accused attacker has pleaded not guilty and sits in jail with no bail until his court date on February 23rd. Bringing you what's ignored, sensationalized, misleading, or just plain false, that's your Media Malfeasance for the week. Be sure to check out the description for ways to support my work. For KLIM.News, I'm Kristi Leigh.